Oh man, I'm sorry. I am not the technology savvy one.
That's okay. That is completely okay.
Am
Hey,
I to the
Tina.
side? Hey,
Yes.
ladies. Why?
I
Look.
I don't know. I thought it was upside down day. I don't know.
I can't. Okay, hold on. Let's see. How about now?
Oh, there you go. Yes.
Okay. I'm on my iPad, so that might be making
Oh,
a
okay.
bit of a difference.
Maybe.
To log on my laptop. Listen up. I'm here.
Good. I'm happy.
I can't be figuring this stuff out.
I am happy. Thank you, Melissa Love, for making an Instagram just so she could be a part of the podcast.
Right.
So, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining this month's Transformation Tuesday. Today, we're going to be talking about going Dutch. So, basically, going Dutch is a phrase that we often use like when people are dating. It can be between dating, friendships, anything, marriages, but it simply means like you pay for yourself and they pay for themselves. So nobody owes anybody anything. So we're going to talk about all the different type of aspects of going Dutch, whether you're married, living together, dating, and even friendships. So we're going to talk about all of that. So I have Melissa Love and Jada. Why am I having a brain fart on your last name?
Wells.
Jada Wells. And I want to give a shout out to Jada because Jada is the reason that I'm doing Transformation Tuesday. I was thinking about doing a podcast and she helped me come up with the name of Transformation Tuesday to think about topics to transform people since my business is turning your pain into purpose. It's kind of a transformative business. So Jada is the reason that I have Transformation Tuesday. So we can all thank her for being the amazing big sister that she is to me. And Melissa, introduce yourself, what you do, how you know me, and I don't know, anything else you want to say about yourself?
Thank you. I'm Melissa Love. We met in a book club that I was invited to join. We all have this love of reading, and we love talking about it. It's one of the best things that I've done. It's so refreshing when we have our book club meeting. A lot of real ladies, a lot of down to earth knowledge, and just it's an absolute beautiful interaction anytime. I wanted to say that. I am a nurse, and I also work at the casino.
Okay.
And I've been at the casino for like 14 years. I've been in nursing for about 12 years, and that's what I do.
Okay, and where do you live?
I live in Florida,
Okay.
South Florida area.
Hey. Okay, that's good. Jada, can you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do and where you live.
So again, I'm Jada Wells. I am a consultant. I own a security consulting business, and I live in Northern Virginia.
Yes, that's a role model for sure.
Oh.
Okay, so we want to start off this. We're going to build up to the topic that we discussed when we first decided we was going to pick this. But we're going to start off with, if you're on a first date, how do you feel about paying your own way?
I personally do not think a woman should pay their own way on a date unless she invited the man on a date. So if she was pursuing him and it's like, hey, let's go grab some coffee, I could see her paying. But other than that, if you invite somebody on a date, I think that that's offering to pay, in my opinion.
Okay. What about you, Jada?
So for me, I think a first date is really an exploratory date. You know, you want to get to know someone. You want to see if you like their conversation, if their energy kind of syncs with yours. So my idea of a first date is more like at a coffee shop over breakfast or something like that. And I think that we should pay for ourselves on the first date. There's not, whether I invite him or he invites me, like if we choose once we get there to say, oh, you know what, I got you, that's fine, or vice versa. But it's not necessarily my expectation for them to pay for me on the first date.
Okay, yeah. And I've seen it both ways where girls feel like the guy should pay for a first date. But you know me, I have brothers and I have a lot of male friends, and I heard dating is expensive, and we know
Yeah.
dating is very expensive. So all those dates add up. So like she said, a coffee date. I know someone told me they like to take girls to get ice cream. Or you know, go walk in the park and get a smoothie as a first date. And recently I heard of the breakfast date, and I saw someone on Facebook, they like broke down the benefits of a breakfast date. For one, because it's cheaper. Two, you get to see the girl out of her element, and she don't have time to put on a whole beat face, and you get to see how she dresses in a different environment, because some girls only know how to dress for a date. But if you take them to IHOP at 8 o'clock in the morning, you can't really wear like evening clothes. And then another benefit he said was, you know, it's early in the day, so your day is not wasted if you don't like it, and then your day is still early if you do like it. Y'all can go catch a movie or go do more things in the day. So I heard breakfast dates are cute too. I think that's a good idea too.
Yeah.
Somebody say something.
No, I was just saying, yeah, because I've had good luck with that. You know, it just gives you a chance to see, like, is this worth my time? And he does too. And if it's not, there are no hard feelings because nobody spent a lot of money.
Right. And Nigel said that dating is very expensive.
Yes.
I bet it is.
Yes.
For me, I always pay for myself. I have a very prideful, like, I have a big ego, so I always pay for myself because I don't have to owe anyone anything. And you know, people get besides themselves and they might think that I owe them $20 worth of booty or something, and I'm like, you don't get none of this. Like, $20, $15, 2 for 10 chilies, you're not getting none of it. So
yeah, I agree. In today's, you know, world, it is like a society of people that they don't want to be doing more for somebody than that person's doing for them. So they don't want to find like, oh, I spent this money and you ain't do this. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're definitely right. You don't want to feel indebted. Like, oh, he feels like I owe him something because, you know, we went out and he paid. You know, you don't want that mentality. And it's sad because, you know, like you said, my uncles, you know, discussions that I've had with, you know, older men from a different time, a different generation, it was what it was. You know what I mean? It was not, it's like, okay, I'm going to be that gentleman. And if I invite you out, you know, I understand that this is the cost of living.
right.
And this is the cost of dating. But now it's like, oh, well, I spent $20, so whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's always nobody wants to feel like they're doing more or putting more in than the next person, you know, and that goes in friendships and relationships. And, you know, that's that's the concern nowadays, you know?
Right. I agree. So after you've gotten past the dating stage, past the regular initial dating stage, and you guys become in a relationship, and you made it official, do you still feel like the man should still pay for everything, or is it circumstances are different? How y'all feel about that? I know I didn't complete the question, but I want y'all to form your own opinions.
Yeah. So for me, I think after like the initial first date and you feel like, okay, I want to spend some more time with this person, and then the actual dating begins. Because you say, all right, I really want to take the time to really thoroughly get to know them. And I don't think that it's bad for us to, you know, sometimes I pay, sometimes you pay. But that is different than the courtship. So we have to think about the phases of the actual relationship, because if you're just dating and, you know, we're not exclusive, but we're dating, I don't see any problems with me paying sometimes, you paying sometimes. I think that's really fair. But when we're courting, then things can change.
Right. Yeah. Agree. What about you, Melissa?
I agree totally. I think that like she said, depending on the stage of the relationship. But I will say that those stages in the beginning are important, how you address them, because they might, you know, if you give a guy the impression that you don't mind paying your way, he might think, okay, as the relationship goes on, she's going to continue to pay her own way and I'm going to continue to pay mine. So you might want, you know, to be careful the impression that you give in that time frame, because it might misrepresent, you know, your expectations down the line.
I agree. So
Yes.
I've seen where, the guy starts off whining and dining, and then later on down the road, 2 or 3 months, he's like, I mean, you can pay sometime too, but if you already spoiled a girl like that without, asking for any type of, not asking for help, but making it known what your expectations are, then that's what they're going to expect. And I know a lot of females who think the man should pay for everything when they're dating. And I don't agree with that, because that's my personal opinion. It ain't about my opinion. But yeah, I just know people who think that way and people who think the other way. Did you say something, Jada?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So moving on to living together. This is always the most stickiest thing, because when we initially started talking about doing this topic, it was like, if we live together, if we're just splitting the bills and that's roommates, or the man should have a role in this. There's many different avenues that you can go to living together. But I know you guys have both different perspectives on the living together, be it dating or married, but we're going to break that down a little bit. So first off, have either one of you guys lived with someone you were dating?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
And how long did each of you do that for?
I think we lived together probably for a few years.
Okay, and are you still together?
No.
Okay, and what about you, Melissa?
I've been right now. I'm at my situation right now.
Okay.
We've been together for 8 years.
Okay, that's good. So, I just remember I've never personally lived with no one I was dating. It's something that I don't want to do until I get married. But I remember my best friend, she used to always be like, I think she lived with most of her boyfriends, but she'd be like, the living together just speeds up the breakup. And I seen somebody else say that online. So what do you guys feel about that comment?
Well, I agree with that. I don't after that experience, I don't want to live with anybody until we're married, because there are just a lot of dynamics that people say, well, if you're living together, you might as well be married. It's completely different. It is not the same thing. It's
Right.
not the same, because to the point of the conversation that we're having, if we're living together, as girlfriend and boyfriend, how do you really say, well, this is what you're responsible for from a biblical perspective? You're supposed to be the head of the household, but he hasn't made you a wife.
Mm-hmm.
So that part is a little, the area is really great for me. And I do believe to each his own. That doesn't work for me.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, like I said, we've been together for a while now, my boyfriend and I. And I'm gonna say part of it is I'm also divorced. So I've already kind of been down the road of marriage, and I'm more cautious about that than I am about anything else. The only other man that I ever lived with was my ex-husband. So I kind of seen both sides of the thing. You know what I mean? Like what it's like to live with an actual spouse, a husband, and have that role, and then living with my boyfriend and just, we're just cohabiting with a family. So I don't know about speeding up the breakup, because, this relationship lasted as long as my marriage did. So.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I guess it depends, on the personality, for real. Like, if you
Yeah.
can handle it, how mature you are, all that type of stuff. So,
Yeah.
do you guys think that it is different with somebody, or what's the difference between someone being at your house all the time versus living together?
That is a little bit different, because if we have our individual houses and our individual spaces, then we're responsible for our individual bills. So if I'm just at your house all the time, I'm not responsible for the light bill, and vice versa. But if we're living together, then bills must be paid. That is the big difference. You're coming over here, we're having a pizza night or whatever. You're eating my food. We're dating. We're not married. We're just dating. We're just, in a relationship. And when we talk about relationships, I'm speaking even from the point of just an exclusive relationship. You're not necessarily responsible for that. You're not responsible for the things that go on in my household. But if we live together, then you are, and I'm saying this from a married perspective,
Okay.
because I've been married and divorced, which is why I have the stance that I have now. If we're married, then we're you're responsible for taking care of things because we're living together.
True.
I think like what you said about, always being over at somebody's house, but you each have your own established homes. Again, that's another situation where you have to be very careful because at some point, depending on the nature of your relationship, somebody's house is going to be getting neglected.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you're spending days on days over there, whether you're living with a roommate, and your roommate is like, hey, you're never here, this, that, and the other, whatever, a water pipe burst and nobody was here to address, who knows? So you have to be very careful to not neglect your primary residence or your primary home for this other, situation that you may have going on that may or may not pan out. So it's another situation where you have to be very cautious with it.
That's true. So both of you guys have been married before. So before you got married, a lot of people say like, I need to see how they live before I get married. Did you guys cohabitate before you got married?
I did, which is why I said I won't do it again.
Okay. So, but you guys did eventually get married.
We did.
Okay. And what about you, Melissa?
I did not.
Okay. So you guys moved in once you got married?
Yes.
Okay. So I hear a lot of people say, like I just said, like how can you get used to someone if you don't know how they lived before, if you just move in just as soon as y'all get married? I know you can see, like you visit their house and you can maybe see how they live, but I think certain things come to light once you're actually living with someone 24/7 and they have no escape.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think that when you live together, there are things. Let's say you're living together and you're not married, right? This person is a complete slob. You're like, I can't do this. We got to break up because I can't move forward with this.
Right.
You see that they don't pay bills on time like they should, or they're just things that you're not fully committed. And this is, I'm just saying, and you're just in the dating stage. There's no engagement. There's nothing. You don't, when you choose to marry someone, you're not choosing to marry them based off of how they live. You're choosing to marry them because you have made a commitment to be with them. So all that other stuff doesn't matter. But when you're in that dating stage and there's been no commitments made, there's no distinct line in the sand about, what you're willing to accept, because as women, we have standards. Men have standards too.
Right.
Some men don't like a woman that's messy. Some men want a woman that cooks all the time. And if you're not married and he has those expectations of you, you could be leaving yourself exposed to, I want I want the milk without buying a cow.
Right.
You're not doing that.
Right.
You paying this dowry and buying a cow before you get all of that that comes with that relationship. You know?
So I'll say, for me, first of all, I got married when I was 18.
Okay.
So both moved in with each other directly from living with our parent.
Okay.
And I would say that was probably a big, huge part of what caused my home to be unhappy. Because I did not live with you before. And now I've made this huge commitment to you. We have children together. And for me, my biggest thing was, like, you have people over at this house constantly. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, and it's something that if I would have lived with him prior to, that I would have been able to see before we jumped into these vows, into this long-term commitment, this lifetime commitment. And, like I think personally, I believe it's very, very important to live together before marriage. Like I said, I know that part of my struggle with my marriage was, a lot of stuff that I would not have been able to see unless we got together, that came out after the fact. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and it just became overwhelming, and it's even questions like, you can talk and talk, until you're blue in the face about, are you clean or you're messy? Do you go to church on Sundays? Not, like you can, but until you actually experience that, you know, until you're only meeting like a representative of this person. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because until you actually witness it, until you actually see it on a day-to-day basis, like I can behave for a few hours. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I know over here I can clean up real quick and, you know, shove all of my stuff in my closet and whatever, you know, whatever you want to do to make yourself more appealing for this person,
Mm-hmm.
because you understand that you know, it's a necessity. I have to be appealing to them. But, you know, it's living together, all of that's out. You know what I mean? And if you are not aware of that beforehand, you could be getting yourself trapped.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
And I do agree with that. But I think that also sometimes I was 28 when I got married. And a lot of the things that came out later for me weren't discussed necessarily in the premarital counseling part. So I think that that part is so important, you know, as it relates to pulling that information out. And I mean, like intense premarital counseling. I'm not talking about who's paying the bills. Are we going to church on Sunday? I'm talking about trauma. I'm talking about how you feel about your mother.
Yeah.
What's your relationship with your father? Do you know your father?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm talking about all of those things that really contribute to healthy, whole relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even at 28, I'm 44 now. So I didn't know the things then that I know now, which is why my stance has changed a lot on how I'm doing it. And I'm following the blueprint that was set out for us. Because when you follow that blueprint, a lot of that gray area becomes really clear.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes extremely clear because their dynamics that are already established is proven, tried, and true. So why are we reinventing the wheel that's already there?
May you say blueprint, are you referring strictly to a biblical
I
perspective?
am. Biblical perspective and from experience. Like when you are involving God's word, when God's word is your blueprint for the relationship, and you're also, you know, in therapy, you're working on yourself, you're actually doing that work. I think that it's a little bit different, even at 28, just getting into a marriage and saying I'm gonna go to premarital counseling, but you're not doing God's work or the work on yourself. I think that has a huge difference in the success of the relationship, whether you live together or not, you know.
So may I also ask how long are you married, if you don't mind sharing?
I don't. No, I was married for 11 years.
11 years. And you said you did cohabitate before. About how long did you guys live together before
About
you?
2 years.
Okay.
hmm Yeah. And people's representative, you know, they can hide for 3 months or 36 years. So, so, you know, it really just depends on how good they are at covering themselves behind that cloth. And that's why for me, um, I'm saying with my experiences, I'm referring to the word of God because that just kind of defines everything. You don't have to lean on your own understanding. You literally have the word of God in order to help you get things right.
So for those who don't have the word of God or don't have that faith background, what are some things that you guys maybe have, I guess, figured out that can help you along the way if you don't have that background, for instance?
Yeah. Therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, working on yourself, you know, to each his own, that's my, you know, the word of God is my preferred method.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter your religious background, your denomination of faith, everybody needs therapy. Everybody has trauma. You can grow up with two parents, have a perfect household, and still have internal things that you're dealing with. So, you know, engaging with a counselor, a licensed counselor, not a life coach, a licensed counselor can really help you to work on yourself.
Okay. And Melissa, what is the blueprint that you followed for your relationships, if it wasn't like faith-based or anything like that?
My marriage attempted to be faith-based. It was a situation to where my ex-husband's mother was a minister.
Okay.
We had already had one child together, and when I found out I was pregnant again, she was pretty insistent upon us getting married.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so it was something that I did to try to follow that blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
and it failed miserably.
Oh.
So my thing is really just knowing, like she said, finding yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, honestly, you're an ever evolving person. You know what I mean? And that's where you have to develop at least a foundation of self. And you have to find somebody who has a foundation of self,
Okay.
because you don't want to find yourself or your relationship where you're just completely, walking around with no idea what's going on, no end game in sight. So
Mm-hmm.
my friend is personally just knowing yourself and being true to yourself. And if you find yourself deviating from, your course,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to pump the brakes, man. You know what I mean? You have to do what's really best for you and step away. Like if you're deviating too much from what your goal is, if it's not, you guys, you find out that you're down two different paths,
Mm-hmm.
don't waste much time. You know what I mean? If the end game isn't what it started off to be for you, and in the foundation that you have within yourself for yourself, then that's my, you kind of go with it until it doesn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense. I want to go back to something, Melissa, when you asked Jada. So Jada, when she said how many years were you guys dating before you got married, how was it at all difficult to not get complacent in living together and not having to be married? Because I think a lot of people get married. I mean, a lot of people move in together, and then marriage just keeps getting pushed further and further back because they get complacent. And I was reading this book called Hooked. Actually, it was for one of my book clubs, and it said something like, I think it was 60 or 70% of the couples who live together do not make it to marriage because they get complacent. How were you able to not get complacent in living together before you got married?
So for me, while I had a standard,
Mm-hmm.
before we started living together, we dated, and for quite some time, I can't remember the amount of years, but it was long enough for them
Mm-hmm.
to know that I'm not about to continue
Play.
this. Yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
not doing this. So, whenever I kind of set my mind to a goal, that's what it is for me. And I like to make my intentions known up front.
That's
So
right.
nobody has to wonder when we get married, am I paying all these bills? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So yeah, that complacency really wasn't an issue because I let it be known up front. Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
because of my pride and the ego that you mentioned earlier, I will be in pain while I watch you walk out the door. Yeah.
I know that's right.
So with that said, what do you think a time frame is if you're dating? What do you think, how long do you think you should give somebody if you're dating them before you guys walk down the aisle?
So I think it depends on the situation and the person. So at 44, while I'm not necessarily in a rush, I do have a timeline, but I want to see you in every season. So I want to see you broke. I want to see you with some money. I want to see you dealing with grief. I want to see you dealing with depression. I want to see you dealing with happiness. I want to see you parenting. I want to see all of those things so that I can really say, okay, this is tried and true. This is who you are, because we talked about that veil that people wear earlier.
And can I deal with it? Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they can stay on. That veil can stay on quite some time. So I really want to see you in every season. In my opinion, a 2 to 3 year courtship, and that's when we say, exclusively, I want you to be my woman. I'm dating you with the intent to marry. Because unless I hear those words, I can do what I want to do.
Period.
Do what I want to do. So that's what it is for me.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. You brought up the bills, so who pays the bills?
Yeah.
Is it the man? Do you split them? What y'all think about that? Since that's the big debate on social media.
Yeah. I'll let Melissa go first.
Well, we did briefly touch on this the last time that we spoke. Um, and my thoughts on it and my feelings about it are really 90% on an economical and societal standpoint, because that's the reality that we live in. As I mentioned, from an economic standpoint, it does take 2.5 full-time income to carry a household, or then that's what the average American earner, that there has to be 2.5 full-time jobs to have a comfortable life, and so realistically, you're talking about 100 hours a week working. So unless you are an elite earner, whether it be the man or the woman, I would say that, the way that society is, those bills have to be split, unless somebody's going to be out there killing themselves working 100-hour weeks and you never see them and they never see their kids. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that it's necessary to split the bills, and it's also from an experience standpoint. I've seen women out here where their man is paying everything. Man drops dead, they don't even know what bank their money is at. You know what I mean? They don't even know who their mortgage is with. They're not even structured enough to get out and to pay these monthly bills independently. So it's like it becomes more of a dependent relationship from a financial standpoint when you only have one earner and one contributor.
I completely understand that. And I think those were really good points. So I will, the stance that I'm coming from. I'm coming from a biblical perspective, and I'm also coming from my background and my history. So I grew up, my grandparents raised me. My grandmother worked every day, and her money was her own. My grandfather paid the bills. Times were different. Money was different. But we can go to my aunt, my grandmother's sister. And I'm bringing her up because you said, some women don't even know where they bank at. My aunt was one of those. My grandmother had to teach her how to write a check. But what my uncle did, because a man prepares his house for when he's there and when he's not, he left enough money for her so she could pay the bills for the 30 properties that he purchased for them. So,
okay, Grandpa.
biblically, yeah, I think it's like 1 Timothy 5, the man is the leader in the household. That leadership, he's supposed to love his family like Christ loved the church. Christ provides for the church, the man provides for the family. And I completely understand about, inflation in the world we live in now. But I'm from the standpoint that, number one, people need to do what's good for them. Okay. But in me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord. And in serving the Lord, that also means that we are going to use that biblical doctrine. So if a man has properly prepared himself for marriage, then that means he is in a financial position for that. That means covering. That means if your man is only making a certain amount of money, then you live within those means of that money. And the reason why I feel that way is because I don't care if he's working 40 hours or 80 hours. If something happens to him, while the woman can still work, in Titus it says, a woman, she can work, she can keep the house. She is still able to be an earner, okay? But if something happens to that man, then that's where her income comes in. She can still, that's what submission is. It's about, submission equals support. So I'm supporting him. I'm the helpmeet. If something comes up and happens to him, then I can support him. As that's, it's just it's a evolving thing. So I'm not saying it from the perspective like the man got to kill himself and work, 65, 11 jobs in order to provide for us. But why not go into it with an expectation of this man is covering me? I think as women, Black women in particular, we so used to surviving, we so used to trauma responses to things that we don't have an expectation of being properly cared for. And when we are able to operate in that season, in that space of being fully cared for, then we can operate in our truly feminine, quality and be that support that that man needs. So, my viewpoint is a little bit different on that.
So if the man is providing everything, what is the woman doing?
Well, she don't. Oh, she can still work. When I get married, because I will, I'm taking care of the investments. I'm taking care of vacations. I'm taking care of my shopping needs because that's what I want to do.
And that's right.
Yeah. So the word help meet, I'm supposed to help meet the needs of the man. He's signing up, as my sister just said, to be a provider. That's what he's doing. So I'm help meeting the needs of the man of the family, whether I'm buying groceries, I might pay the light bill if I want to get fancy one month. You know what I'm saying? So I'm providing. The requirements that God has on the man are completely different than the requirements that God has on the woman. She's supposed to be diligent in her work, devote herself to good works. I'm still working, carrying and keeping a house is work. I'm still earning. I just may not be doing it and putting my bills into the mortgage. That's the covering that I'm talking about. But, our investments, I'm saving. I'm making sure that we're good.
So you're not speaking from a perspective of not working. You're speaking from a perspective of not contributing directly to the bills.
I guess like gender roles, basically
Right.
you doing.
Yeah, because like for me, like exactly what you said, gender roles, like where the wife is staying home and her duty is to the household. It's checking homework, it's what I mean, keeping up the upkeep of the home, food, laundry, cleanliness, things of that nature. And the wife, the woman of the house is not going out in the workforce. But you're saying that she can go out in the workforce, but funds that's derived from that is going to go to
the house
portions of the marriage, like investments and things of that nature. Okay, yeah. So that's a little bit different than
you just splurging on.
Well, yeah, or just stacking your bread, like in case Buddy decide to skip out. Right, I'm good. You know what I mean? Whatever it may be. And I think that is even goes different than the traditional roles, because traditionally, women were not really expected to work. I just had this debate in a group that I'm in. One of the men there said, "My woman is not working, period." You understand what I'm saying? If she has the expectation to work, then we will not be together. Because he said, "I don't want no excuse about, oh, I got off late, so I didn't make your dinner." He said, "I want my clothes ironed every day." And I mean, I'm not against that expectation, because he is an elite earner. We're talking about a guy that brings in $200,000 a year. So he makes well over what, even just societal standard is for carrying a household. So he has a right to have that expectation. And I don't expect, he's like, "I'll give her little allowance, whatever she wants, but I need my household 100%, 100% of the time." And that's his expectation. You know what I mean? But like I said, alternatively, if you're saying that you are going to work, but you're going to, invest your money, like you said, maybe plan the vacations, which that I think that's fair.
Right.
I think that is fair.
Right. Yeah. And expectations are discussed before marriage. So what works for you, Melissa, might not necessarily work for Jada, and vice versa. But y'all discuss those expectations with y'all partners before y'all got,
that is
the relationship.
That is the key.
Yeah.
Like I said, you don't want to be out here and give somebody. That's why you got to be 100% about it. This is because you can't live on no lie forever. You can't do it. Like you said, 20, 30, but that's going to come out eventually. A man can sweet talk you, and, be the nicest person. And like she said about seasons of life, what happens if you get injured, and you can't work for 6 months. You know what I mean? Like my boyfriend got injured in an accident and he was unable to work for 5 months. You know what I mean? Is that going to be too much strain on the household? Is that going to be, is that going to be our demise of our relationship?
Right.
Type of situation, so you have to be true 100%, especially when it comes to finances. That is
Yes.
an important thing to discuss. Finances and parenting in a relationship. Those are things that if y'all don't agree and y'all don't see eye to eye on, those will ultimately lead to the demise of the relationship if you are not 100% true about your parenting style and your finance style.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. And I think that those things should be discussed in the before I make this an exclusive relationship stage. Like, we're not here to bamboozle anybody. We're literally going to talk about all these things before even the man makes the commitment to say, I want to date you exclusively with the intent to marry you. Because I think that is something that should be shared. I hear, men sometimes talk about, well, I got married and then things changed. If you are stating this information up front, then there's no surprises. And even in the time where I'm referencing, like my grandmother, she worked, my aunt worked, they had great jobs. They were nurses and teachers, like they were earners, especially in that time. But it was not an expectation for them to provide and pay bills. And like you just said, Melissa, your boyfriend got hurt. That's why I believe living on that one income is important, because if he gets hurt and we're living within our means on that one income, then I can come in and cover him and be that support role and that submissive role that he needs in that time. I think that is.
You're exactly 100% correct.
I like that too.
Even if you have 2 jobs, live off of the lesser income. Like right now I'm working 2 jobs. Try to live off of the income of the job that's paying you the least. So in the event that something catastrophic happens, you are prepared for that loss of income. And like I said, it's not that it's not, at least from the time that I went to church, it was always, the wife is like the homemaker and the husband is bringing home the bacon. You understand? It was never as how you're presenting it, where, okay, I'm going to earn an income, but this is our backup. You understand what I'm saying? I don't have to contribute to the house. We don't have to depend on my income to carry the household. But I will ask you this. What if your earnings supersede your husband's earnings substantially? Which a lot, especially in Black households, that is the case often. So where the woman, her income is about, like if you're talking, it's about 70% of the income in the household. So what are your thoughts on that?
My stance doesn't change, and I'll explain to you why. So the man was called to lead and provide. The Bible doesn't say, well, he can lead and provide as long as you don't exceed his income by 80%. Okay? That's not what it says. So it says he's called to provide. So I still think that those things remain the same for me. Now, if I'm making 90% or 90 times more than the man, just to be an extravagant, number, and we're living in poverty, that's different. But he needs to be working to excel to get to that point. And if I'm marrying somebody, we have the same biblical background and belief in that doctrine, he's going to be trying to get to that point. And he'll know that's how I feel up front. But I want to go back to, because I one time was a stay-at-home mom. I stayed home and I did not work. I did not earn, I did not work. And that was okay too. Because understanding that role at that point, what was more important to me was caring for my children. So if the man is out working, my husband's out working, and I'm staying home to care for those kids, that is what I'm called to do in that season of my life. I don't think that anything is wrong with that. I think that I know several men who have set their wives down from making great money, over 6-figure jobs, and say, look, I got it. Take care of babies. Because you know what they understand? They understand their role. They understand that this is what I'm called to do. And if God calls you to do something, he's going to give you the tools that you need to do it.
Right. Let me pause real quick right there and look at some of these comments. People have, I don't know if you guys can see them. Lavish Mall Prime, my mother, she talked about her being a stay-at-home mom too, and if you know what both of you guys want, y'all can work together. Big Speaker Big Steppa said it's all based on the man's financial situation as well as what the woman is comfortable with. He also says his partner and him make close to the same amount and they're stronger together, and that works for their relationship. And then Trail said that living off the lower income isn't necessarily fun. So those are some comments. I don't know if you guys have comments to them, but one thing that I thought of as I was reading it, if you are already supporting your, I know a lot of people say that, you know, in marriage, they want to put two incomes together. This is just my opinion. But if you're putting two incomes together, if you're already supporting yourself, that shouldn't necessarily be the goal. Not saying nobody said this, but I know a lot of people on social media, it seems like it's their goal to have two incomes. And like you guys are saying, live off the lower income is kind of a different mindset than the younger generation on Facebook and Twitter, because they're interested in having a two-income household so that they can almost live beyond their means, because they're not living off of one income at that point. And that's why it's important that two people have their own life set up. They're paying their own bills at their own place so that you're not going to be dependent. Even if you are a man, if you're already paying for your own mortgage, your own car notes and stuff, once you come add another person to the household, your expenses aren't going to change that drastically if you're already taking care of yourself.
Well,
a lot of people,
what if you're adding children? Like,
and that's
they
true.
say it's taking $350,000 for 18 years to raise a child.
Yeah.
$350,000 minimum. So that's why I was saying about the 2.5 full-time income, you know, because you're talking about if you have 2 kids, you need $1 million, and that's minimum. That's not including private school, like if you want your child to have an advanced education. So I think that it's important that, like when you're saying coming together, if you guys are two single people and neither one of you have kids, a lot of times people underestimate the financial impact that having children have on you.
I guess my point was, you're coming together to still live off the lower income so that you have that, not coming together to make that added together income what you're going to live off of. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
So then that's my thing too. If you're following that path of marriage and children, you know, that's drastically going to also change y'all financial situation. You know what I mean? Like if you guys are, like I know a couple, you know, they got married, and then 5 years later they had twins and their entire financial situation shifted. Because we have twins now. You understand what I'm saying? We have kids. So even if the husband's income was enough to support 2 adult people, now we have 4 people in this house. Our house size has doubled, you know, and I think that that's something that also has to be in perspective, because even if you're living off of that one income, what are we going to do when we start having kids?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if he's already, you know, like I said, if you have 2 kids, 4 kids, 6 kids, that's something that you have to consider when you're talking about income. You know, now I'm buying, you know, what is it, $30 for a can of milk? You know, that's rough. That's tough.
It
is. No, it is 100%. But I think that that falls under the living beyond your means and planning for your life. Like if you plan,
budget,
and you're budgeting, then I still think that things remain. And I saw one comment and it said, you know, it was the one that you were talking about, Shay. He said a little bit more. He said, I pay the major bills and she pays the smaller bills.
Okay.
So
listen.
Yeah. And I think that also works, especially when you know, you're both making the same thing. I think that's fair if that's how you want to do things.
Right.
Again, I have a different viewpoint because, you know, I think that some people, like you said, they're looking for the two incomes. They're living that Instagram life. They want to flash and they want to do. That's not what's for me. What's for me is being able to pay cash for my kids' college or buying them a car. You know, they need one when they turn 16 or, you know, so I think it depends on your goals too, your goals and what your focus is. Yeah, if you're focused on legacy and moving ahead, that other stuff is not important. And the only way that you can build a legacy and break the stigma, particularly in the Black household, is to invest your money, is to think long term versus the short term. You know, I get that people have to work, you know, 2.5 jobs in order to pay the bills. You don't have to. You could actually do something to earn some money on the side, become an entrepreneur. There are really just a lot of other options.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I'm an entrepreneur, so
there's
yeah.
definitely ways but I have 4 kids.
Me too.
And I'll say that in my endeavors, a lot of my time has been taken away from them because they only have so many hours in a day. You know what I mean? And that's one of the biggest things that hurts me is sometimes you're missing out because you're so busy being a go-getter, you know, and that's what I mean about establishing yourself. I wish that I had established myself better before I had children, before I got married, before I had children, so that I'm not still, you know, like you said, trying to build that legacy. It's very hard to do that when you have them little eyes looking at you like, Ma, I got a basketball game. What's up? You know what I mean? Like, I got a soccer game and I want you to be there, and mommy has to work, you know. But I think that also there's stuff that's outside of our control. Like, if you look at the now the average cost of groceries in a household has doubled in the last year and a half. So sometimes it's not even a matter of living beyond your means. You can't control what goes on in the society around you because there's only so much within your means before, you know, hey, I was paying $10 for a pack of chicken and right now it's $25 for that same pack of chicken. And guess what? My kids eat the same amount. Their appetite ain't go down because the chicken is $25. They still want they 2 chicken thighs. You know what I mean? Like, it's something. It's like I said, it's not only living within your means. You know, I'm in very, like, a lot of financial groups, and I have to address that a lot. Is that a lot of times, like, that's why I have 2 jobs now, because I'm like, whoa, like, this pandemic has set me back. You understand what I'm saying? And it's chipped into my savings, my cushion, and I have to be responsible and keep that there in case, you know, the worst happens. You know, I don't have any control over the price of gas, the price of food. So whereas I may have been doing a wonderful job budgeting, it's, you know, even on the most strictest budget, you're not budgeting for your expenses to triple in such a time frame. You know, like my friend, her rent went from $1,200 to $2,200.
Oh my God.
You understand what I'm saying? And it's like, how do you plan for that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? How do you really effectively plan for that? And even if you have savings, like I did, you understand what I'm saying? I was out of work for almost a year waiting for my job. I was furloughed, you know? So I thank God I had savings, but now my bills have gone up. So even if I'm taking money out of my savings to meet that, now what am I putting in my savings? You know what I mean? I think that for me, it's very difficult to walk the line of the map that you're saying is laid out because we have so little control over the major parts of our life, which is the cost of living. You understand what I'm saying? Because you can't budget your way out of inflation. There's nothing that you can do to budget your way out of interest rate, out of inflation, out of the cost of gas, out of the cost of goods. You just have to roll with the punch. And like I said, if you have to pick up another job like I did, that, you know, I did what I had to do to make sure that my household doesn't sink.
Right. No, and listen, I get that, and I'm empathetic to people that are having that situation. It's rough. My measurement doesn't change. It just doesn't change. Because of what I believe and my insurmountable faith. I go through experiences too. I think everybody does, you know, but I think it's how we look at it and how we approach it that determines our outcome. Um, Inflation is here for everybody. I don't have any control over the cost of gas or the chicken thighs. And I have 4 kids. And I was not prepared. I was a very young mom, just as you were. But I also think that when we know better, we do better. We know that trouble comes, but what are we doing to prepare for that trouble? Like, that's why you're working 2 jobs. So you know what I'm saying? So you're doing the things that you need to do to prepare for those times. And like I said, I'm empathetic to that, but he's still paying the bills. He's still paying them because that's his job. That's where I'm not a man. If I was a man, I'd be paying these bills and I wouldn't talk about it. But since I'm not, I'm not
talk about your side.
Yeah.
I think both of you guys' standpoints had very valid points. And like I said earlier, it works for your relationship and it works for her relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank you guys for sharing all that. I was looking at some of the comments, and Big Speaker Big Stepper, he also said, you know, everything is inflated and they stay on a budget. I think he said earlier up top they have a budget too. They have a 5-year, a 10-year, and a 2-year and a 20-year plan. And I think it sounds like in his relationship they have good communication like you guys had in y'all have in your current relationships, and that's why things are going to work the way they work. So Miss Kennedy said, young people go Dutch, but not on my watch. And I agree. I believe, me being from the younger generation, I think that we go Dutch so much because people are no good. You don't want to sit here and be doing this. I seen a post on Instagram the other day that said, my boyfriend's been paying all the bills and he cheated on me, and I was so happy to leave because I have $100,000 saved up in the bank because he's been paying all the bills.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong. He cheated. That's his problem. But it was kind of like, she was doing what my grandma told us to do, was have your stuff to the side if he paying it, stuff like that. But it's just a different dynamic with the younger generation because everyone's out for themselves. So it's kind of hard for someone to live off that mindset that Jada has, where I'm a man, I'm going to take care of every bill, because a girl could just up and leave you tomorrow and be off with some rapper or something like that after you just did all your blood, sweat, and tears paying all the bills. So I think that's why the young folks don't really.
Absolutely. I think like when I was saying earlier about everybody's scared to be, you know, left holding the bag. Nobody wants to get the short end of the stick. You don't want to sit up here and look like a fool because, oh, I was taking care of this woman for 25 years and she cheated on me. She was a stay-at-home mom and she slept with the milk. You understand what I'm saying? Like, nobody wants to see that, but I think that people, they put too much on what somebody else does as a reflection of them.
And then don't worry about themselves.
Yep. It on you, and you took care of all the bills. You had your kids for her, and you were doing what you had to do. And she ended up doing. That's not a reflection on you. That's that fool. She had a man that was holding it down for her, and she was holding down the house, and she decided to step out of their marriage or their relationship. And you know, that's not a reflection on you. But I think that, like you said, with social media, it makes you look like a fool. Like, people be like, oh, you dumb. You shouldn't have been paying all them bills. That's why I don't be taking care of a woman like that. It's just a society of nobody wants to end up with the short end of the stick. Nobody wants to invest more. You know, nobody wants to love their person more than they love them anymore. You know what I mean? It used to be an argument about I love you more, I love you more. Now it's who can love less.
Yeah. Who can have the least feelings.
Who can invest the least? Even if it's just a little bit less, I feel like I got over on you if you know, if stuff doesn't pan out the way that you want it to. They just want to feel like, oh, well, I got over it because, you know, you paid 55% of the bill and I only paid 45%. So I got over it. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to be excited.
Even like in friendships. Friendships are often like that. When you guys go out to eat with your friends, how do you feel about splitting the bill evenly versus just only paying for what you ordered? Because
that's I don't think that's a thing. Like, I love my girls. Sometimes we go out, I pay, they pay. Sometimes we do 50-50. That's not even a real issue. Like
Mm-hmm.
in my friend circle, yeah. If I say, girl, especially like if she going through, girl, come on, let me take you out.
I had to get
Like,
used to riding with the big girls.
yeah. Come on over to the other side. Yeah. So yeah, I think it whatever flows. If I get my card on first, cool. Like I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you, Melissa? Do you have anything to say on that?
I feel like that's tough, man.
Yeah, because it's different friend circles.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was gonna say, like, there's some people like I'm a big tipper. I work in the casino business. I've worked for tips for many years. And then some people are like, I'm not tipping all of that, you know. And it's like, unless you guys really agree, or you guys have to really have similar lifestyle. Because I've had people where, they're like planning this big, huge vacation, and you know, it's only gonna cost us $1,000 each. I'm like, $1,000? Not like what? For you know what I'm saying? And it's like I had to kind of take a step back from interacting like as deeply as I was, because I'm like, I have 4 kids.
We're on different plans.
Yeah, like, and I'm not spending, you know, $300 or $400 a night on a hotel. I just emotionally, I can't do it. You understand? I cannot see myself spending that kind of money. But then there's some, like you said, that's what they flashy. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we want to get the biggest mansion, and you know, oh, it's $1,000 a night, $500 each. Not now. I'm sorry. You know, and then, or they want to eat at these expensive restaurants, or like I said, or even on the other side of things for me, people that don't tip right. And then like you sitting down here and, you know, they done ordered $100 plate and they trying to leave $2. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, at least for me, I'm like, nah, you know, I don't, you know, that's very, very tough when you're talking about friends, and you really have to be in the circle of people that they're mentality the same as you.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's important too. I think friends that are on the same, you know, emotional level, economic level, I think all of that is extremely important. So, so yeah, I think when you're with your girlfriends, if you'll pay for a date for a man, I'm surely gonna pay for a date for my girl.
Yes, and I paid for dates for men, and they were like flabbergasted, like, "Oh my God, I've never had a girl offer to pay," and I'm like,
right,
because I think men should be treated too.
They absolutely,
too.
Especially the good ones.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing that because I know that he got me, he covers me, so that shouldn't be a thing. But I get it. Like sometimes it's just not economical to do, and that's okay too. You know,
that's true.
I believe in 100% living within my means. If I don't have it right now, we will split this bill because I still wanted to see you. I still wanted to eat. My presence is the presence.
That's what I be wanting. I just want to see you. Like,
that's
if you don't have money, then let's go because I'm hungry. So let's go.
Yeah.
Kennedy said, "Can't pay bills for a city girl."
Can't do it.
Comment that was good, but I feel it. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Did we lost Melissa? Well, thank you, Jada.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting ready to head out to that second job. Thanks a lot, inflation.
Go ahead. Thank you guys for joining us today. This was a great conversation. I love the different aspects, and I love that we kept it civil. I didn't see that anyone else had questions on here, but thank you guys for joining me and being a part of QueendomBusiness podcast tonight. Follow me if you haven't. And yes, thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Jada. Y'all have any last words y'all want to say?
No, I see my girlfriends here, and my bonus son is up here supporting me. So I love you guys, and follow her and support her book club so that we can all spend more time together.
Yes. Shout them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So yeah, all of them. You see Shamira, you see Asia, my sister's there, Miss Kennedy,
Asia,
Big
Kennedy.
Stepper,
Oh, them all your people. Okay,
baby.
Hey, y'all.
Yeah.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. All right, Melissa. Good talking. Okay. All right, Shay. Thanks for having me, babe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jada. Love you.
Okay. Love you too, babe.
Bye.
Bye.